you're drawing. Say that country A believes that the border is further to the right here, but country B believes that the border is actually farther to the left. When you're drawing their border on your map, you have to make a decision on where you draw your border somewhere, and no matter where you do it, you're probably going to make someone very unhappy. But what if you could draw two different maps and show them independently to both country A and country B without them realizing that the other map exists? That way, you can make everybody happy, and that's essentially what Google Maps does across the world. Google Maps is by far the most widely used map in the world.
To censor a website. Google only have to annoy one government to lose a country's worth of users. Any errors along the China-India border could lose them a third of the world's customers. The region of Arunachal Pradesh borders India, China, Bhutan and Myanmar. Administrated as a state of India, they keep 100,000 troops in the region, but China also claims ownership, calling it South Tibet. Each country has laws to stop mapmakers drawing the border in the other's favour, or even acknowledging the regions disputed. So Google creates 3 different maps. This is what 2/3 of the world will see on Google Maps. The dotted line indicates disputed territory, but if you view the area from a Chinese domain, it shows it belonging to China, and part of India from an Indian domain. No mapmaker previously had the ability to do this. Historically, you had to pick sides. The average Chinese or Indian citizen would be unaware of any dispute, or at least they would have been until Google accidentally switched the borders in 2007. This caused outrage in both countries. Many in China were unaware that most of the world didn't recognise China's legitimacy over the region, and members of the Indian parliament accused Google of purposefully derailing an upcoming summit between the two nations. There are similar disputes all along the India-China border. All are heavily militarised, with regular standoffs, backed by 2 of the largest armies in the world, both with nuclear weapons. So just in case nobody noticed the first time round, Google managed to make the same mistake again in 2009.
This is Google's rendering of the hotly contested Kashmir region as viewed from Pakistan, and this is what the area looks like as viewed from India. Take another look. In the Pakistan version, dotted lines suggest the disputed borders the two nations have fought over for decades. In the Indian version, a single solid border places the region firmly under Indian control.
Countries are over in Asia, primarily on the India-Pakistan-China border. Let's start off with this awkward piece of land here, which depending on who you ask, is either Arunachal Pradesh or South Tibet. If you're looking at maps in literally any country in the world except for either India or China, this is what you'll see here. A dotted line in the north where India asserts the border is, and a dotted line in the south where China asserts the border is. However, if you view maps from an Indian server, this is the changed reality that you'll see. A clearly marked solid border in the north for India without any representation of China's claim at all. But if you view maps from a Chinese server, this is the even weirder reality that you'll see. Not only is the Chinese border clearly marked across China's claim in the south without any representation of India's claim in the north, but all of the Indian-built highways and Indian towns that actually exist and extend beyond China's claimed border just stop abruptly at the border, like they aren't even there, which is a little ominous. But if we look a little bit further over to the west, we can see the weirdest and most awkward conundrum faced by Google Maps. How in the hell do you draw the borders and claims of Jammu and Kashmir without pissing off 3 countries that all have nuclear weapons and have a combined population equal to almost 40% of everybody on the planet? That's a lot of potential customers that you could lose out on. And here is the problem explained in mildly more depth. Essentially, there's this area of land that's known as Jammu and Kashmir. The Hindu ruler of the state of Jammu and Kashmir decided to join India back in 1947, but Pakistan disagreed based on the fact that the majority of the population in Jammu and Kashmir were and are Muslims. They have since fought multiple wars over the territory, and then China also got involved by claiming these parts of the territory for themselves as extensions of the Chinese provinces of Xinjiang and Tibet. Pakistan has recognized the Chinese claims as legitimate, but continues to claim the rest, while India claims everything, including the Chinese claims. The territory is currently divided in occupation between the 3 powers, so drawing borders here is probably the most difficult and the most controversial place to draw borders anywhere in the world. And this is how Google manages it inside of Maps. When viewed from anywhere outside of India or China, these are the borders that you'll see, which are essentially just a mess of dotted lines representing claims without a clearly defined border in sight. When viewed from an Indian server, however, that's all very different. The entirety of Jammu and Kashmir is drawn to be a part of India without any regard for either the Pakistani or the Chinese claims. While on a Chinese server, the reality is even different still. The Chinese claimed territory is clearly drawn to belong to China with solid borders, while India and Pakistan's claims on each other are still marked by dotted claim lines. The Chinese edition of Google Maps is probably the most different from the main version of maps